I did see it, but I got like I'm gonna be there early.
Greg can see why this room isn't
It's
set.
been really. Yeah, actually, this one is way better than any of the other ones we've done.
Really.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God, the worst is
As we are.
Okay. All right. You want me to write it down? Or, you know,
So because that way
okay. Sounds good.
just send if you can make it.
Sorry about that.
Thank you for being here. Right. Yeah. That's
Hey,
two yes.
yeah. I've been talking to, we have a small group in Texas ASLAs. And diversity of climate, and we're talking about boundaries. You spread the goals. Yeah. Right now, we're talking about these. So, are you doing? Probably. September.
Be awesome. You guys host me in your office or?
You know what I have an estimate because they're so busy with the grant application that NCT got. So since they're doing the expansion of the climate, I was thinking if we could go over them, see if they would be willing to boost and facilitate that way, bring it all.
Be perfect. And we'd love to invite a lot of people from the city.
Yeah. We're thinking also about potentially inviting staff. City of Austin. Some stretch goals of what they saw. Cool. You keep working on it. They're like, do you want to do the next one or something? Like, we feel like. Wait. Well, I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, thank you.
I got to
Yes.
it is.
Anything else? Yeah. Most of the tea at least. We have our meeting.
Call them. Swap. See what's stuck. Okay.
I mean, like, I do that.
Projects. That's where I found to go.
That's fair.
You may be having a parking there.
Sounds good.
Must do something in the way up and be.
Did you catch? No.
Grab the room.
All right. So, yes, you guys are ready? Are we? Great.
Okay, good morning. Today is Friday, January 26th. It's a meeting of the Urban Design Review Panel. We have one project to review today. Thank you everybody for coming, for joining. But before we review the project, we'd like to approve the minutes of our last meeting happened on December 15th. If you had a chance to review the meetings, the minutes, do I have a motion? Thank you, Norman. Have a second? Second. Thank you, Michael. Everybody in favor say yes? Aye. Yes. Thank you. Anybody opposed? Minutes are approved.
Very good.
So with that, would you give us a quick overview of the Field Street District project?
Of course, and just a quick reminder to the panel and the presenters today that 5 yeses is the best room for this type of presentation, but we have some shortcomings, and one of those are the mics. So if we can all speak up when we're commenting, it helps with the recording. We get complaints every month that maybe somebody wasn't heard, and it's more challenging on this side of the table than it is on that one. So just an FYI. But with that, let's get started. Today, you guys will be reviewing one project, the Field Street District Project, Phase 1. The site encompasses one of the catalytic development areas that was identified in the 2017 360 plan, whose vision included advancing complete and connected neighborhoods while introducing opportunities for great place making. Design considerations for this first phase include a complete street treatment of the realignment of Griffin Street and the Woodall Rogers off-ramp, the introduction of active ground level uses on Griffin, Field, and Ross, and the creation of public open space that enhances the quality of life in the district. This will be, I'm assuming, a pretty long presentation, so I want to kick it off with Billy presenting and introducing the project.
Sure. So my name is Billy Pruitt. I'm the Chief Investment Officer for Pacific Dome Properties. You've got a fairly large team here, multiple property owners represented, so I thought I'd just start by giving you a little bit of history of why I'm here, why the people, why our team is sort of where it is. So the Field Street District area is roughly 30 acres, and about 16 of it is owned by two large stakeholders, Pacific Dome Properties and Headington Companies. And when we acquired our stake in Pacific Dome Properties, we basically had a choice of doing what most developers do and looking at our 6 acres and trying to, turn it into the next cinema universe for downtown Dallas. And Headington had their 10 acres adjacent to us, and they had the same choice. And we also happen to have the privilege of owning other properties adjacent to each other, Santander Tower, which is a site in downtown Dallas. And through that relationship, we basically began to realize that we're both, true believers and good urban planning, and we both felt like the best outcome for the neighborhood would be to work together on something that's a lot more cohesive and integrated than rather than just focusing on individual tracks and kind of to what's around us. So hopefully what you see today is a reflection of that. This is a big site. There's going to be lots of phases of improvements. This is probably 15 years worth of work. There's a lot of things outside of our team's control that are impacting it. Things like D2, the textile off-ramp. And really one of the things in the 360 plan that was identified as an issue is the street grid, the configuration of that, and then the utilities that are up the street. And so one of our big priorities early on was trying to figure out how we can do this in a way that you don't just go in and fix the area around one little block where your first project is, and then and put in a brand new street and do everything needed for one incremental improvement. And then the next project comes along and you have to tear up a piece of that street. And the pipe that you just took from 10 inches to 12 inches, now you got to take 14 inches. And so it seemed to make sense to us that is the best way to plan this larger neighborhood. That introduces a lot of challenges. We're having to look pretty far into the future, pulling a lot of expenses forward in order to try to do it right. So we understand up front that there's a lot of challenges to this project. We're asking you today to evaluate the first phase of our public improvements. But there is things beyond the scope of what we're looking at today. If you've got feedback on that, we welcome it. We love the opportunity to incorporate feedback. This is my second time to come to the Urban Design Peer Review Panel. The last time was 10 years ago. Eddie Wade was actually on the panel at the time. I've told this story publicly multiple times. That process, the first time, was one where we had our renovation of Santander Tower. We spent a lot of time on that. We thought we nailed it, and we took it to the Urban Design Peer Review Panel, and they just poked holes all through our program. We got defensive, and I've had the privilege of the last 10 years spending most of my waking hours in that building, officing at that site. And in retrospect, they're right. I wish that we had been able to incorporate more of the feedback into our plan. So I just say that to know that, to let you know that don't hold back. Whatever feedback you got, we're open to it. We probably won't be able to incorporate it all. There are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of economic issues, but we're certainly hoping that this is a collaborative exercise. So this first phase of public improvements impacts multiple property owners. That's why we're here and Headington's here as the two largest stakeholders. The first phase of private improvements is a hotel development with a for-sale condo component and a market rate rental component and a affordable housing component. So we've decided to partner on that first phase of private investment. So that's the other reason why I'm up here. It's a site that is owned by Headington companies, but we're partnering with our co-development. So our team, we've got Coy Talley, Talley Associates, landscape architect, and his team are the design architect. At the end of the day, really, everybody here is providing input on the urban planning aspects of it. So it's a critical team approach. But I will turn it over to Coy to talk about our approach to the urban planning, and then after that, and so we'll go ahead and talk about the project.
So with the microphone,
Actually, Coy, yeah.
Closer to the center.
Yeah, please come.
I'm not going to speak because I have
Okay.
So heck, this is never fails for our office. We very much so.
And please don't be shy. So that we can address everybody.
So, my name is Cameron Bales. I'm underneath Fort Talley at Talley Associates. And working on this 6 or 5 years at a time. But so I wanted to go through kind of our diagrams and kind of the significance of the site. We look at it as kind of the missing link in this district. This is all open-based parking lots right now. And the goal of this project is to reconnect all those neighboring districts with great streets, kind of realigning road systems, pedestrian connectivity, and making that a safer site. The significance of that site also is how centrally located it is within our downtown fabric, and the walking minute diagram we have here kind of demonstrates how much you can connect to. We're trying to influence, walkability, transit use, increasing the air quality in this area. It's a great site to help reconnect all of these districts. So it's that missing link in the area. We have multiple DART stations. We have 2 DART stations within a 5-minute walk of our site. Multiple cultural aspects, around the site that we can get to. We get to the trolley line. There's a lot of items that you can actually walk through within 10 minutes of the site. So that, I don't know if there's some additional things we want to talk about on the actual location, where it is.
There's one other thing, it's walkability in connection to Katy Trail, but we can bring that all the way through our site like nothing else from a downtown perspective, we think. So, and our setbacks, our setbacks are 10 feet on the property line. We have basically a 25-foot zone throughout, if not greater, and then the realignment of Griffin gives us that opportunity for pocket component that is really nice for building residential downtown.
So that kind of pushes us into the 3 key aspects, and our priorities are to really hit the Dallas 360 plan. We're trying to advance complete street design concepts. One of the main moves is the realignment of the off-ramp off of Woodall Rogers. It currently feeds into Griffin Street, and what that kind of creates in here is it's a disaster for pedestrian connectivity across that intersection of Griffin and Field Street. So realigning that actually does wonders for the area and creates additional development of parcels and opportunities for that zone. We enhance all of Field Street, making that more of a pedestrian-friendly zone. Double row valet of trees everywhere, and It's all about just realigning that Griffin offset or off ramp onto Griffin Street. It'll actually off ramp onto Field Street instead of Griffin. So that's how we kind of tighten this zone up. And Griffin Street would tee into Fountain Place Plaza, which gives it kind of a great sense of place.
There's a story behind that. When Vincent Sarah first came here, you know, he did a straight line from the tollway to the Vincent Center. So we have all these power parcels. And this realignment really focuses on integrating an axial relationship to Fountain Place, but more so, a very simple off-ramp into Field Street, and then you're in the core of downtown. Before, when you went all the way down to Griffin, off-ramp, puts you over to the west end versus more central located. The congestion is going to be, this will help congestion quite a bit. Absolutely.
The design intent is pedestrian connectivity, you know, increasing public transportation use, safe street designs, complete streets. The Field Street improvements is huge on this. This creates a great corridor coming into our downtown. Tree-lined pedestrian streetscapes, double alley is kind of our goal for a lot of these zones. The open spaces, the new pocket parks that we've created, kind of the creation of urban mixed-use projects in a downtown live-work setting. Is there anything additional you want to add to the design intent?
Well, you know, the downtown core is just building to curb. This has these opportunity points, I would say, and this is important this later. The idea of coming into the district with the off ramp and then coming through the core with all the Fountain Places here, and then all these buildings are ahead. And then this is along McKinney, right across from the Rose Museum.
I'll just add that I think that the Fountain Place Plaza is one of the most under-leveraged pieces of the built environment in downtown Dallas, and so we really like the idea of having a signalized intersection right at that aligns with that courtyard in order to sort of make that your first stop into downtown as a way of introducing you to this neighborhood.
Yeah, you might want to highlight what the PD is referring to.
Yeah, so Fountain Place Plaza, we're really anchoring that by realigning the Griffin Street to tee into that fountain. As it currently exists is where it just tapers into the off-ramp of Woodall Rogers.
And what Billy said about it being a holistic approach, we want to talk about so many projects downtown, but it's one block or one project. It is really substantial, I think. And everybody wins. Fountain Place is invigorated, and then we're pulling some of those spots where we're interrupting their walkability.
So kind of going into our phase one improvement diagram here, which highlights the zones of interest that we're first attacking. There's kind of 4 key points that we'll go through today. Number one being the Woodall Rogers off ramp and reconfiguring that and aligning it onto Field Street instead of Griffin Street. We'll still have a portion of that off ramp that comes into our district that has that same turnaround that exists today. So it's the tight turn, and then you can go north on Field in that direction. But the main path is traveling south into downtown on Field Street. So that is kind of I would say that's one of the major moves in this phase one. On to item 2 is the realignment of Griffin Street into Fountain Place and anchoring Fountain Place within our district and kind of encasing that.
We've also been really integrated in the transportation studies, going back and forth with Tim and Lawrence, and really pushing from an urban design walkability standpoint much more than is a D-rated intersection. Well, that's how you urban design sometimes like that, but we're trying to balance both ends of that, where it's very walkable, controlled access, center points of intersections, and just tree lined. Trees are so big. I believe in Dallas, you can walk at 90 degrees if you have tree line. If you don't have that, we're trying to improve on the Ponte plan, if you will.
And item number 3, I will let Eddie kind of go into detail about that development. And then item number 4 is our relocated fire station, which currently exists off of Griffin Street, which is in kind of that block of item number 3.
I'll add to the fire station that we're not relocating the fire station simply for our convenience. It's on the city's needs inventory list. It's one of the most active fire stations in the city. DFR needs a facility basically that accommodates all the activity that they see in downtown. So they need a new fire station.
I think you should follow the fire station. Does it sit on private land or public land right now?
Today it sits on public land, and we've looked at a number of different sites to potentially relocate it to. The primary constraint that DFR is introducing into the new site is it needs to be pull through. So they need to be able to pull in off of one street and out on the next. And it needs to be over, well, at least an acre, preferably more. And they don't have a lot of money to spend. So put those 3 things together in a neighborhood that's basically has unlimited density zoning. It's a pretty hard recipe to come up with. The Headington Companies has a site that they currently own that we're proposing as the new site. We've done a feasibility study with DFR. We have a preliminary sort of set of renderings for a new fire station for that site, and what's proposed sort of meets their needs. There's elements of the traffic plan that they're looking at, elimination of on-street parking, one-way versus two-way conversions for, I think it was San Jacinto and Patterson maybe. So there's a few other sort of hurdles to get over to sort of fully vet that location. The idea would be that we build a new fire station and then trade a new fire station on currently privately owned land within publicly owned land, and then swap from the existing fire station site.
Well, real quick, there's a any consideration to incorporating the fire station into some of the driving development. That seems like a much more efficient use of the ground.
We have I think the biggest question is what's economically viable. Nobody really wants to stay in a hotel that's above the fire station. Nobody wants to live above the fire station. Nobody wants to office above the fire station.
I do.
Well,
Fine.
And I'm going to go around. DFR doesn't want it either.
yeah, and quite frankly, one of the reasons we spent so much time in this project is so important for us is because Headington and Pacific Island both have some other investments in downtown. So for us, this is about more than just this plot of land. It's about what we're trying to unlock potential downtown as a whole, and what we need most is people. So adding bodies to the neighborhood at sort of every price point is a priority for us. We've looked into the idea of potentially adding an affordable housing component above the fire station, but when you get into the design requirements of DFR and try to marry that up with the added complexity of another use on that site, your site has to get bigger. All of your ingress and egress changes. And it's just finding a site that accommodates that is a challenge. But if
It's not the time to argue.
well, it's a good idea. I like it. If you can find a way to do it.
If the concept is we've got to go from, low density in a downtown environment to higher density, it strikes me a freestanding 1-story or 1.5-story building in here is antithetical to the basis of the whole premise of this development. And I would wonder, because I understand pretty well how fire stations work, and I would, I've had apartments and offices downtown, who would care, because you're going to hear sirens 24/7 anyway. Sirens and trains, if you're near the dark line, that little ding ding sound is always there. So, I don't know that, that may be a perception, but I don't know that that's a real problem. See how the market. I'll stop for this time.
All right, we'll come back to it. Okay. Sorry to interrupt the flow on the presentation. We were just doing about the fire station, which is peripheral to the conference, but please continue.
You see the location, right?
From that there to there, we're gonna walk in sequence right now. For each of these individual issues in more detail, just to give you a better grasp of
Yes.
I do want to make a few comments on the overall vision. I know you all see the value in what we're presenting. I actually used to live in Victory Park, and I used to work for HGS. So times I would love to walk from Victory Park to HGS downtown. This area is very treacherous and unpleasant. Walking across sidewalks, it's just you never felt safe. I always felt in danger. So I think everything that the attitude we're taking in support of the 360 vision, I think is in parallel. We're actually trying to really think about how to slow the car down to really make for an inviting neighborhood. I do think the power, we're going to talk about in a moment, the power of this intersection, which is signal versus allowing the car off the highway at 65 miles an hour to continue down to a signal currently at Lost Avenue. The current situation is just inviting speed through the city. We're trying to oppose that and really think differently and truly transforming these 30 acres of development into something that's truly meaningful for the city of Dallas as a whole. So we think everything we're talking about is in support of the Dallas 360. We think it's meaningfully done, and we'll get into the specifics of how each of these projects actually contribute to that. So we'll start with item number 1. We'll go through that specificity 2, 3, and 4.
Here's a rendering that we generated that kind of looks at that item number 1. So this is the off ramp coming onto Field Street District now. Currently exists today, it shoots right down Griffin Street, which is running kind of like the east proposed building here. And we've enhanced all of Field Street District with alleys and trees, and it's a very walkable site for the city in general.
It's a simple change to Gulf across in Bay that gets the bridge, just go straight to the bridge from there. So it's
that's it out there, and we're thinking about a park on that actual site underneath it and wrapping around the corner. But yes, this kind of shows how much we're enhancing Field Street District and disconnecting from Griffin and King Griffin into
it gets hopefully that just owns there and what a little textile looks like too.
This starts to show the existing condition of Field Street today compared to what we're proposing. So right now, it's tight on the sidewalks. It is 2 lanes with a suicide lane or median in the middle. It's very limited trees on Field Street as it exists today. And down at the bottom, you start to see the offsets that we're proposing. We're around 20 to 25 feet offset from the curb to building face. We're able to get a double alley of trees in there and a 14-foot red median in the middle that we can plant as well. There's a small portion of that exists in front of Fountain Place today,
We want to continue that character throughout Field Street.
This section is very similar to DMA section as you go into the entry. And, which, by the way, to me is one of the most walkable sections in Dallas at no increase.
And not only does it beautify, right, streetscape, trees are critical because of shade, especially in Texas. So it just creates a level of comfort, level of intimacy when you get connected to the city, but it's segregated from the vehicle traffic. So I think you can just look at the contrast of what exists and what we're proposing. I think that's pretty fantastic.
That section specifically, that section ID would be.
Yeah, I mean you're going to ask that.
There. So if it was through here, we'd be showing the drop off and everything. So I wanted a cleaner section.
So that whole area from the highway all the way to Ross is not.
It is. So it is.
At one point, you have 3 lanes all the way to Griffin.
Right. Yeah.
And then you have
a
a big pull off for your hotel.
Yeah, there's a little stretch here where we're at 3 lanes and you have a dedicated right turn onto Griffin Street. And then from the hotel, yes, we have an opening, a curb opening there for the drop off. So
But I thought that section you said was for all of that road. I'm just trying to have 30 to
So again, when that 3 lanes happens, it's simply for that off ramp exiting. So you can come in and off ramp independently. So people on the field don't merge into that. The off ramp merges into the field.
But then even on the next section, is that section still correct? Because even though you have 2 lanes, you still have, it looks like, dedicated off-street entry to your hotel.
We have a entry by our hotel, yes.
I'm just trying to understand that in context of what you're doing.
That next section is exactly the same as it is now.
I'll just add to this conversation that the section is what we're proposing. The city's traffic department is reviewing the plan as well. And so there's a lot of alternative designs currently being proposed. So this is what we like, but I don't even know, even if you supported that, I don't even know if eventually it will be something to build. So maybe as opposed to focusing on what we proposed, what would you like to see? And we can try to, we're getting opinions from a lot of different city departments, and so we'd love to have your opinion sort of stacked up next to all of them so that it gets baked into the actual value.
Really appreciate that. One of the things that I think this board struggles with is that we look at from an urban design standard, and then when it goes to the city, there's a suburban overlay that's added to it, so there's a lot of conflict. And so that was the question for the sections, just so we as a board can evaluate it correctly. It wasn't to pick on.
No, you're not. We understand. And this is a push for urban design. And we're pushing hard to get this from the law about to get a street.
Okay, all right, thanks.
So item number 2 starts to focus more on Griffin Street and that realignment into Fountain Place, creating a sense of place, utilizing the existing fountain at Fountain Place. And now it really starts to pull Fountain Place into our overall district as well. So now you can see TNN, we're no longer attached to Woodall Rogers off ramp. And this also helps with creating developable sites. Currently, this is all chopped up because of the grid layout that exists today.
And additional parks too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do want Field Street, and we love this condition to keep going, right? We love this condition to keep going. We want to influence, establish precedent, and then hopefully the city will see the value in that and keep it going. The beauty is, we can't really control this edge because of all the existing ramps and the four-way parking. But this is a beautiful space, right? There is edge, trees. We're really trying to affect and improve this condition. The double row of trees along Field Street, I think it's a really nice condition. Actually, actually helps the buffer and development of park space from the tree, from the street.
And
So look at the improvement made in terms of the edge conditions and the median condition to really establish what we think is a boulevard. It takes highway condition, try to create a boulevard.
The other thing is back to that transportation. Redmond is 2 lanes, a median, 2 lanes. There's no additional right turn lane and no additional left turn lane. So if you, when you come into the other side of Purple, when you come into the Arts District, you'll have a left turn lane, 3 straight lanes, and then another right turn lane. So we're keeping that section tighter for.
It's also very important how we're enhancing the intersection as well. So that's going to be decorative paving at these intersections, which I think will help with pedestrian connectivity as well.
That's not many major streets have that section. So that's a goal that we're trying to achieve in urban design in the 360 plan.
But another key point is to free-lane the traffic, medium grade, free-lane the traffic. We're trying to go, again, slow traffic down, make it a boulevard that's walkable, livable, all those things, the 2 lanes of traffic, slightly widening between 14 to 15 feet. We're really thinking about this edge condition with pedestrian.
And then that's the curvature of Griffin coming in Fountain Place. And this is the new Hamlin Tower here with terraces. And the idea is that there will be podiums, so we're trying to do some nice landscape terraces as part of that.
So we'll move to the third item, this site map, which is the vertically integrated mixed-use component. So we've been communicating, Billy, correct me if I'm wrong, that any sort of investment will fit can improve this area. They want a significant project connected with that.
Right. You don't just want to promise that it's going to create private investment in the future. You want to see it as part of the actual project.
So wanted to just start to highlight what we're intending to build. This property just north of the existing fire station. There is a residential component. There's a luxury residential component, plus or minus 70 keys. There's the market rate plus workforce housing component. This is 30 units, 7 units and 30 units for 100 units in total. There's a boutique hotel, approximately 150 keys with all the supporting space, the meeting space, great food and beverage on ground plane, all sorts of factors. The way this site is set up, we'll walk through in detail the ground plane, but this is really the podium. The hotel, the boutique hotel is an L-shaped configuration. Luxury residential high-rise tower sits on top of that, and then lining this edge of this development relative to fronting what we're calling a future site development would be the workforce housing. You'll see in detail how we're really focused on trying to centralize the dock. Really trying to think about how we're activating the competitive edge, and we're trying to think about the pedestrian, integrating the car, but segregating the car, so there's no conflicts other than a couple points that are necessary for local parking and service access. So that's the existing state, this is the proposed state. I think this board is really essential to study because it does illustrate how we're really trying to be thoughtful in terms of ground floor programming. So when I was on the board, Larry Speck made it really clear to me because he was on the board as well. that our responsibility as architects, urban designers, landscape architects, in terms of these types of projects, is really enhancing public land. So that got ingrained in me, learned so much from that. And it really has informed, I think, I hope you see the same way, how we're really trying to think about that ground plan condition, how we're leveraging programs to actually enhance the public land. So we want this project to have a Field Street address because we think of this as an entry point into downtown Dallas. We want that presence to be connected to Field Street and leveraging that boulevard experience as the front door for the project. I think what is really nice is the fact that we are not impeding, we're not intending to impede traffic flow on field. We are maintaining the 2 lanes of traffic to move through this boulevard. We're actually developing a condition for drop off, which is essential for a hotel, for guests arriving to the hotel. Residents who actually live here, actually establishing a vehicular lay-by zone, drop-off zone that works off the main street. What that is you come out of the car, then it provides a contiguous line of unobstructed sidewalk conditions for pedestrians. So I don't have cars. There's examples all over the city where we create these big motor parks. So as a pedestrian, I always have to cross that very dangerous condition. This is proposing the condition of actually isolating and segregating automobile and pedestrian. So when I'm in this environment, the interior of this environment, I'm connecting out, from lobby space to terrace space, from bar space to terrace space, restaurant space to terrace space. This is all about this transition between the sidewalk and the pedestrians and this sort of experience around the project. The residential, because it's luxury, is going to have a degree of security and privacy, but we also want it to feel very much part of the city. So it resides at this corner. So there may be a gated condition that gives it a sense of privacy, but it's still very public at this intersection. We're thinking about, even the programming along this edge on the interior as a living room space, where people would reside, really feel like they're connected with Ross Avenue. As you work plan south, again, the idea is to centralize the dock. We think that's important because it can support all of these different uses from one central point. The dock is going to get some use, but it's not like constant throughout the day. So yes, we have to cross this pedestrian condition. We think it's pretty minimal given the density of what we're doing. And then we want the market rate housing and the workforce housing component actually feel like it's part of this overall block. But we want them to have their own thing. We want them to feel safe and secure. This intersection, it's not the safest place in Dallas. We know that. So the reality is we want to set this project up for success. And the idea is to make it feel urban, that the first 2 stories of this land condition would actually be walk-up units. There would be a kind of a secure gated condition into a pedestrian court. This court really becomes an amenity for these residents. You come together, gather, socialize, but they're also secure. Elements of security or screening walls actually become elements of art. But we do see there's opportunity for this future development site to actually be an integral part to how this edge condition works. We don't want this to just be a wall. We want to think how this actually eventually connects to that.
Back to the surrounding. One thing about the dock, though, this is so this is all behind the scenes.
We want this place to have a sense of intimacy and a sense of community and a sense of connectivity in terms of scale. So as these developments start to come on board, we want, like, for instance, the major food and beverage that's on the corner here. I feel like it's a walk-up. I don't have to come by car, enter the space. We actually created a separate entry for the major food and beverage component on this side.
The sidewalk is continuous on Field Street, even though there is a drop-off condition. So as a pedestrian, you're never having to worry about somebody pulling into the hotel and crossing your. There's a continuous sidewalk that elevates that condition.
So these sections pull up in the sidewalk is actually on the east side of the sidewalk.
it comes up in front of us, so.
You see the double row trees right there? The sidewalk is continuous.
Private property.
No, it's not. It's gonna be a public access as part of that.
Okay.
It'll be great. It's the same thing we did at Bro.
Yeah.
At the drop off on field, where a sidewalk comes around against the building, that's public access.
Yeah, once you, there's a little bollards in line with the pumps. So if you get out of your car, you're in the safe zone.
It'll be very elegant.
So these are the sections, if you have any questions specific, but this is relative to the Field Street cross section, the median. There's a median that separates Field Street traffic from the drop-off zone. And then there's the sidewalk zone that happens between these double row of trees. So the planted zone creates softness, character, green space, and that transitions back to the interior of that space. This section is cut through North Griffin, so you can start to see how the restaurant opens up with a couple of dining terraces for the transitional landscape, integral with that sidewalk. The through traffic in terms of the boulevard, but also the opportunity for drop off. And then across we do, because dogs are important to people's lives, and thinking about that institution, maybe the dog run, dog park for the people that live here, see a little bit of that sitting on West.
You have public access easement pretty much on every side.
All sidewalks. Yeah, it's both public and private with public access. It goes well beyond private.
One of the drop-off lanes is also on basically public property.
Ribbon?
Yeah.
That drop off?
No, sorry, on field. One of the drop-off lanes is on public property.
Well, it's 10 feet.
Yeah,
I know it's a driveway for the crossing.
That's another thing that's actually part of the conversation with traffic is, and real estate is the legal structure of whether or not these things are right away exchanges or access easements or less than 2 minutes. So we have a proposal, but I don't have a lot of confidence that our proposals actually end up in these guys.
This image gives you kind of an aerial view, just so you can see the streets condition and the drop off condition.
But look at the street with what buildings. So that kind of the whole issue, looking at this holistically, what's optimal? Well, from a traffic standpoint, a driveway must be 100 feet afterwards. But put it in the urban context where we have all these moving parts. So that's why we're trying to lay that out and do best case scenarios. And really, it's going to be a challenge.
No, so you said the building setbacks are 10 feet everywhere.
Pardon me?
The building setbacks are 10 feet and this.
Well, they're more than that.
No, I know that. What's in the guidelines?
Well, no, it's zero setback. Okay. Yeah, all downtown is 0 setback.
So the way we're doing it, if you saw a property of the site plan itself, I mean, there's a lot of land here that's traded with exchange to actually make all of those public improvements even viable. But the property line is like right off the edge of the sidewalk. We want to establish a condition in terms of sidewalk zone to allow for trees, pedestrian movement and trees, and then the building edge. So we're giving up property because it's for the benefit.
Yeah. So excuse me, let me just make a point. These are good questions, and I'm sorry I broke my own like some of that. So let us give the group, the team, a chance to finish the presentation, the story, and we do have questions there. They are relevant, but let's give them a chance to finish the wrap up. So we don't break that flow.
Okay. Plenty of questions.
I have. Okay, I understand.
Okay, that's what that.
The architectural design, is this a real architectural design or is this a placeholder?
We have been moving through a conceptual phase design.
Okay.
So,
Because I got pictures like that, I'm not going to comment on. And the reason I'm asking you is so that I understand what I'm looking at, whether I can start picking at some of that, or we go, no, this is not real.
It's about the district.
Okay.
In the phase one,
That is the
buildings
It's where they design up.
are.
That's all, that's, yeah, that's one. Okay.
So just want to start with that, give you an overall sense, talk about in terms of the development relative to the streetscapes. These are just a series of renderings, standing in the foot of the fountain place looking, this was down the spine of the rear line of Griffin Street, on Griffin Street. And the presence of the building was started establishing hard, strong edge condition, filtering that back, really thinking about that scale condition for pedestrian. This is moving off, off the off ramp, off of Woodall Rogers into this boulevard condition and what the presence of start there.
This one shows how the sidewalk is avoiding that drop off condition.
And this is where we get really excited, not get excited about architecture, but really excited about the ground plane condition and how we can articulate that and really make it a truly inviting place where I do want to go hang out with friends, family, people visiting the city, because you think about the bar and the activity and how this whole neighborhood can truly be transformed on not only the street improvements, but really activated edges of programming that really brings life to the city.
Gonna make you relocate through that.
Yeah, that's what I said.
We're gonna make you relocate
Well,
through
we
that.
have an idea.
There's some pretty significant trees on the trees. There's some pretty significant trees on the side.
We've had a lot of those.
Between the property we own and the fire station, but we would love to be able to relocate and reuse some of those trees. The team talked about whether or not to incorporate that into this presentation, and our hesitancy is that from a practical standpoint, the places where you want to put the tree won't exist until years after the tree has to be relocated to make room for the thing that has to move before you can start moving the road. There's going to be a big logistical challenge in terms of doing it, but we certainly share your desire to preserve the big tree.
That's the one
in the neighborhoods.
It's the one great thing about the parking lot. It's got to be something.
Yeah.
And the vision from the ownership has always been about this urban garden experience that really sets itself apart from some of the other downtown experiences. So I think ownership and design are all important.
So this is a little bit more specific just to illustrate the fact that even like second story space, which is off the meeting space, the pre-function, the outdoor space, be able to engage with the neighborhood. There's a big window of the ball. The space are always connected back of the city, back to the Grove Center in the distance. So really just thinking about dining outside, there's special events, etc. So kind of bringing that social vibe into the projects. And then this just gives me kind of a macro perspective of the project in terms of the tower. I think can be pretty spectacular. This notion of gateway and portal, the boulevard, the field, and the intersection of Ross. It's kind of an underlying concept behind the project. Future opportunity for this development site that can be integral with the land condition, market rate housing, and the workforce housing component. Really thinking about how we're leveraging roof components for amenity zones for residents, amenity zones for hotels, amenity zones for workforce housing development. So that's the breadth of that project. And then the last piece of the pie we talked about a little bit earlier is the fire station. So Billy, do you want to give a better example of what's going on with this?
Yeah.
Somebody that's selected and how all this transaction.
So I'll probably share a little too much here, but there's really two sites that we had identified that were potential options for the fire station, keeping in mind that it really can't move very far from where it is. There's no fire stations downtown. So the other potential site is here. The site is not owned by either the party of the table. So, you know, planning a fire station for somebody else's land is obviously a little bit more difficult than planning for yours. The other issue with the site is you've got the Dart Transfer Center, so you've got a ton of bus traffic here on the section of roadway. So we did do a study for both sides. The fire department preferred this site, and so that's why we selected it. You know, it has the opportunity for a pull through from Sanderson and Patterson. That's right. But it is still in a preliminary design.
Just to be clear, you control that side.
It's a Headington company.
Okay.
So, I don't want this rendering in the background to confuse anything. So the Headington company's on this site. There is another owner right here. So that's the reason why we can't incorporate the fire station across this entire thing. They've made efforts in the past to acquire that. They also own the end. And I believe this owner is working with a bank on some sort of a drive-through ATM condition there, but we've tried to add it to the plan.
Is there anything on the land above the proposed fire station?
Here?
No, above, right north. Yeah. Is there anything?
This is all surface parking.
It's all surface parking now. Okay.
And Headington owns this piece and this piece, and there was a lot of hesitancy to put the fire station here because of the desire to eventually combine it, turn it into a larger site that fronts on field. But I think in light of the issues with trying to acquire that parcel, that's what then makes this logical. We've also, as we've looked at this this housing component, we spent a lot of time just thinking about view corridors. And it doesn't show up in a 2D map, but this is 10, 11-story garage. This is an 8-story garage. This is a TV tower. So whatever you put here for the first 10 or 11 stories, it's going to be pretty challenged. So it was always thought that this would be okay. We'll do a building and maybe the garage extends back over there, and then that would be a great opportunity where you could try to incorporate a fire station like underneath the garage or some other element where it's part of the density. But with that out parcel, there's not necessarily. Okay.
Very good.
So we say that this, obviously, this is a requirement to maintain operation, right?
Yes.
So if this wanted to be incorporated in this, there have to be a temporary solution to demolish and integrate that back in the project. Just be aware that we're trying to also manage that requirement of keeping operation, even if this little construction. Whatever that is.
Yeah, and timing wise, traffic department doesn't want to see any of the roadways reconfiguration happen before the World Cup. So we're trying to, we sort of have a pre-World Cup, post-World Cup. We're trying to get the fire station construction relocation started as quickly as possible, so that is sort of the first thing that gets out of the way, and hopefully that's finished prior to World Cup or around the same time, and then post World Cup we can come in and start doing some of the other configurations.
We understand the importance of soccer.
That's it.
Okay, so thank you on behalf of the board. Thank you very much for the presentation. One thing that I should have said at the very beginning, failed to do that, but I will do now. Billy, Eddie, and Boy, you all have been with the board, so you know how it works. But if anybody hasn't been in front of the board before, I just want to clarify that we are all, the board is made up of volunteers. And it's a rich, incredible mix of talent that we have, from engineering to landscape architect, urban design, historic preservation, to architects. So, and we are all, as I said, volunteers. We have our only common thread here is the love for our city. And we're here to provide you feedback and hopefully make the project better for you and for the city. That's our agenda, nothing else. With that, the way we like to do is two parts. If we can get ourselves organized. First, we ask you questions. We already broke that, so we want to clarify anything that you presented that wasn't clear. So just questions. And second, once those questions are answered, then we can provide feedback. That's we get on the opinion, suggestion, debate part. Sounds good? Okay, with that, Michael, you're looking at me like you have a comment or a question.
I had 6 questions.
You have six.
I didn't break the rules.
All right, 6 questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
First question is, how are we defining a complete street in this district?
Walkability, edge conditions, the street cross sections, drive lanes, pedestrian ways, every area is highlighted and designated, so it's very clear. In other words, you won't be on a sidewalk, and all of a sudden you'll be in the middle of traffic. And when we ask the question about where does the sidewalk go, because we have a court, things are rounded through, leaves like that. The other addition that we've done is that just by the very nature of the grid and what's left over, we're able to utilize these moments as parks and gateways and special features to our downtown thing. So we're working with existing medians that are there now and preserving those. We're proposing not to always have right turn designated lanes, except for off ramps and things like that. And keep the urban grid the way it is, or less, versus the way it is, adding 2 left turn lanes and 1 right turn. So that's a big deal with complete streets, in our opinion, and that's one of the married with the 360 plan, where transportation we have challenges with that. So it's also about moving traffic. So we're trying to achieve the balance the best we can associated with that.
Okay, thank you. Second question. So I'm hearing 2 things. I'm hearing these sections are going to slow traffic, but these sections are going to keep traffic moving. I'm curious, how is this configuration of these sections going to slow traffic?
So when we say it's going to slow traffic, as we go forward, you know, if you do a project by project basis, just by the very nature of traffic counts, they're going to ask you to put a right turn lane in for that. We're proposing not to always have that, to keep that section the way it is. But for the best example, how does it slow traffic versus how does it move traffic? You know, this off-ramp does that. And Eddie just goes that way. That moves traffic, right? Putting it here, that it slows traffic, very organized, and then pedestrians also know where those intersections are versus where it comes down here, where you have all of that. And you have these 2 intersection nodes. So, and we highlight architecture, we highlight urban spaces as part of all of that. So it isn't about just the street and the building edge. And when we have building edges that are right on the property line to the curb, without anything on that, and just streets going through, that moves traffic too. This is a balance, and it is more of a park urban design steps.
And maybe the better word is traffic calming. To introduce this intersection, right?
Yeah.
So there's a walkable condition. I'm not just being able to speed through, I'm controlling the speed because there's an intersection. I'm staging and I'm calming the way traffic is moving through the city. This, again, this highway, this is a highway 900,000 feet from here to there. 60 miles an hour, I don't have to stop if I get here. That's a bad condition. When you look at the transformation, being able to merge on the field and merging, yes, there's a third lane to merge, but just that compression is going to psychologically slow me down. And then there's a stoplight that actually control it.
And so I made a mistake at the beginning. I failed to introduce Judd with Kenny Moore.
Yes.
He's also obviously a very important part of our design team, and they've done traffic impact analysis.
Let me clarify my question. I absolutely understand how the reconfiguration of the off ramp from Woodall Rogers. I completely understand how that's going to slow traffic. I think my question is more along Ross Avenue, along Field Street specifically. We're keeping the same, essentially keeping the same section that we have right now, right? Without reducing lanes. Sure. Except for where it looks like we're reducing by one lane so we can fit in those drop-off lanes.
Here, no, that's the second. We're not.
Let me hit a little bit of your question on the TIA side of things. So a lot of the streets down here are specifically Griffin, and then you're asking about Field. There's 3 lanes each side. So there's an enormous amount of capacity on that street. So the more space and more capacity you have, the faster you can drive. So if you squeeze the space down for trees instead of buildings, but you also reduce some of the lanes, you can reduce that capacity, which is going to naturally, without speed bumps or things like that, slow the traffic down. So for Field and things like that, I know right now it's 2 and 2, but right now there's also not a lot of traffic generated from the site. So as it sits today, when you look at the capacity of the street and the traffic generated, you're able to drive fairly quickly through it. But if you add 30%, 40% traffic, you're going to get the capacity and the use a lot closer together. Yeah. So it will, from just a traffic standpoint, you'll get like a level C or level D street, but that is what is slowing down the cars. So that's how we're trying to balance. We want to make sure that we're not, absolutely don't want to back traffic up in Woodall Rogers.
So maybe the answer is we're slowing things down by adding cars without adding capacity.
Yeah. That adds some capacity now with this matters.
Yeah, max capacity is really here.
Michael still got 4 more questions.
Yeah, they're also looking at that early on in the presentation. I believe you made a comment about this is a really good opportunity for us to make that solid connection to Katy Trail. I bike commute into work downtown every day, and I'll take Katy Trail, and I have to go through down Houston Street in the West End and make that right on Ross and come up and pray basically. And I'm looking at the current draft Dallas bike plan. And what's highlighted on the current Dallas bike plan is a connection from uptown along Harwood. And there's no real connection shown along Field Street. And I'm just curious if there's been any discussions with the bike plan team and what your vision is.
I think that one because we got comments back. David was here just a second ago, but we got comments back on traffic about our one of their comments was the street section saying Steno and pointing out that the bike plan calls for San Jacinto to have a 2-way bike lanes. And so that's one of the things we're going to modify about our plan instead add bike lanes to San Jacinto. So we missed that on the bike plan. They pointed it out, and we're picking about it.
Okay. And we're also studying that being a couple of 2-way.
Okay.
I'm a big believer.
So that'll reduce my questions by 1 or 2 right there. But next question is, I know that right now we're in the very early stages of looking at complete street modifications to Ross Avenue between downtown and Greenville Avenue. Has there been any coordination with that yet?
No.
And I'm not 100% certain how far that transition is going to be. I just
all I know is from downtown to Greenville Avenue, I would hope that it would extend all the way to West End. So
the issue there is when we talk about streets, that I think the thing we always put back on is there's not really a funding mechanism to actually. I think the thoroughfare plan right now calls for Ross to be a one-way street. So at the very least, we're fixing that.
By the way, the thoroughfare, that's
but like in the bond program, I think in terms of like allocations for downtown Dallas, there's not any allocation to actually execute a complete streets program or reconfiguration of Ross. And I think last I heard, the effort was to basically pool a bunch of allocations for kind of minor street resurfacing and focus that on San Jacinto. So what gets done sort of beyond the scope of our project, if anything, I think the only thing maybe that's a hope in the near term is some money for San Jacinto. But we don't, there isn't anybody actually planning an implementation of a complete streets program for the rest of Ross. So there's not really anybody to actually collaborate with.
I bring it up because there's clearly connectivity between the projects, and when we look long range and we look at grant programs from USDOT, the RAISE grant, I think there's big potential to kind of start lumping those together and looking for that funding. So we're dealing with the South Dallas too, where we're trying to find money for the complete streets. You answered my question. I just one more, I believe. Let me look on this. Oh, it's about the median. It looks like the median is typically 14.5 feet wide. And I assume it's that width to accommodate for trees and tree roots and all that. Is that the specific reason those median?
based on existing.
Based on existing.
The existing medians are about 13 feet wide, so we're making them a little bit wider, better space for the trees. And then we're also, if in some of the areas as we're coordinating with traffic, if we need to acquiesce to a left turn lane or something like that, 14-foot wide median lets us do that and also safely have a pedestrian crossing. So it's a good planning mechanism, gives better landscaping and trees for the center, and then also gives a little flexibility if we have to give us some of those things.
And we're talking about the field, or is that also the Tom Griffin?
Tom Griffin.
Great. Yeah, thanks for your patience. I appreciate all your responses.
Thank you.
Two questions. One, yeah, one is maybe a big one, hopefully not. Do we actually have to have a ramp off of Woodall? That's just a weird thing.
Yeah.
And not come down and get the first road and die, come down. And put that traffic into a single intersection like every other ramp exit on that, well, not everyone.
So when we acquired our site, the first thing we did is reach out to all the neighbors, and there was an existing working group that I think GFF was sort of the meeting of property owners, and they had studied 6 or 7 different alternatives for elimination of the ramp.
Okay.
And the punchline is they hadn't really come up with anything that is workable. So there's a lot of departments to coordinate with here. There's DART, City of Dallas, TechSci. In terms of trying to balance ambition with pragmatism of actually biting off something that is ambitious but actually still accomplishable, we decided to try to minimize the changes to the off-ramp so that we didn't get bogged down in TechSci.
Okay.
That being said, we have tried to come up with a plan that is off-ramp agnostic, meaning our plans for 11 McKinney the buildings work if the off-ramp is successfully taken away at some point in the future. And so that was really our strategy is if somebody else can figure out a way to get rid of the off-ramp, our plan works.
Good. I'm a fan of the off-ramp the way it is, and here's why, because we have that, because if you look on the other side of the field, where you had that merge lane into Fernie's Road, I mean, it's just disaster. This gets us a little
That one, yeah, that's,
but here's this is the single lane off ramp here. And it goes over and it merges with traffic and flows pretty well. We get other ancillary parklet spaces, things like that.
okay.
It's Seattle Freeway Park has that kind of condition going into downtown.
All right. Thank you. No, I thought I did, and I've actually been able to sneak in the other one, so. All right.
Thank you on that.
Let's make sure your comment about density of the fire station doesn't get lost. But at least I don't know if it's feasible.
Yeah, there's more discussion here before we finish. So that.
Okay, Mark, any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. One, Arturo, did we not see a case similar to this a couple of years ago? That was the redevelopment of this area, and is this the same group? I'm just trying to realign this. We talked about the realignment of D2 going through this area and connectivity. Is there a relationship between that case and this case, or has that fallen apart?
It's somewhat fallen apart. We did see the D2 project alignment come through a number of years ago, and there were some conceptual ideas as to how you were going to be able to accommodate some pedestrian some development over the Dart line that was going to go under at that point. But since they've announced that it's off their plan, long range plan, things are moving slightly different. So you could assume that this is sort of a brand new look at the safe space.
So does that mean that this group doesn't have to take into account D2 going through the site?
That's something we discussed last time. You might know a little bit
I
more.
would really like for you all to put in writing your opinions on that. So we didn't come to you prior to this, but D2 and the Pacific Island Properties team, D2's plan comes through our site. Again, because we have broader investments in downtown, and we sort of holistically look at D2 as okay, we're going to fight it or try to make lemonade. We made a decision early on that we were going to try to figure out a way to embrace it and make lemonade. And we spent a few years of our lives and $1 million in design, trying to work with Art to incorporate it into our plans. We have a pretty ambitious plan that incorporated the portal and had elevated pedestrian walkway that goes over it, and but an ambitious plan that required very close coordination with DART and simultaneous implementation. And the simultaneous implementation aspect of it is clearly no longer on the table. But what is really kind of a new challenge for this neighborhood is that locally preferred alternative got voted on and approved by City Council, and so it's now officially in DART's plan for the system. Although it's not in DART's capital plan, not even long-term capital plan. So, but it is in the plan. City Council has had a vote that basically requires city staff to try to support that plan. And so one of the into traffic, them basically taking the position that our roadway plan here has to accommodate D2, which D2 basically destroys the connectivity for this neighborhood. Most of the crossing streets are, there's no connection to the West End because the portal doesn't get down fast enough. And in spite of sort of city council's insistence that it's low grade, once it gets downtown, they basically said they couldn't figure out a way to get it below grade until basically even to Ross Avenue. So they were still sort of stuck between D2 and an offering. So again, we tried to do a little bit with it. But at this point, our challenge is trying to figure out how to move the plan for the neighborhood forward when we have an official D2 plan that says it's coming, an official DART long-term capital plan that says it's not, and direction to the city staff that says you have to support.
I have a follow-up one. Go ahead, Mark, if you allow me. So, Jim, D2 is the other one in the room. Okay. So, the plan is the plan that we are seeing now. Is it conditional on D2 not happening as planned a couple years ago, or so? Please elaborate on that.
Phase one,
which is exactly what? Because we see phase one is the
yeah. This
is a street realignment only. It's not
this section of our
all of it is phase one. Okay.
This is what we're talking about trying to implement now.
Okay.
We've intentionally selected for our first phase of implementation a portion of the project that is D2 agnostic. It's back to the conference situation. So if D2 cuts off all of these roads, we'll try to make them. But either way, I think the implementation of this still works.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
The other question that I had is just understanding your obligation versus the city or TxDOT obligation. A lot of infrastructure moves happening here. One, the off ramp, the rebuild of Griffin. Is that everything? Are you going to do that, or does TxDOT have a big play in this? And you having to wait for them?
So TxDOT's because of how we sort of selected them, TxDOT's responsibility stops when the off ramp gets to the ground.
And that's when we're changing.
Effectively, right here is sort of a color change in the map. So we're not changing any of the TxDOT area.
Okay, so what you're showing does work no matter what.
Yeah, 100% of what we're showing is proposed to be implemented by us. There's no funding from various city departments to complete any of this. There's not bond money. But what the city has done, which we're very appreciative of, is the downtown connection TIF district was extended a few years ago, and money was allocated to it that could be used for infrastructure costs for public. So we're proposing that all of the public improvement expenses associated with this project are reimbursed by the TIF, and the private development effectively as possible.
Thank you. No.
Okay.
I have one question, but 6 or 7 suggestions. My only question is, as part of the development plan, I'm sure you did a PIA, but is the development plan approved for it, or is it still in process of getting finalized?
The development plan being
for your site.
We have not submitted a development plan yet through zoning. So the first piece of this that gets submitted is thoroughfare plan amendment, and then the TIF, and then the right-of-way swap and things like that for making all the right-of-way and properties work. Because this is in Central Business District, I don't believe there's a development plan requirement on this one.
So we're not changing so much right-of-way swaps. So I think we're going to leave the buy very early. Confirm this. That's why. So there is no agreement in place at this time.
The submittals are happening in the next couple weeks, and they've been having informal meetings with traffic and planning and engineering departments to get some informal comments, compile things into those first initial submittals, so it's a more complete set.
You're making engineering submittals.
No engineering submittals just yet, because we have to get confirmation that the roadway alignments work. So the TIA has been submitted with our proposed right-of-ways and our proposed sections, and we've got those informal comments, but until there's an official application here to the city, then we can't get the official comments.
I'll just add at this point that
millions of dollars designing public infrastructure with no standing agreement to get reimbursed for any of it. We've done a feasibility study for 2 fire stations and incentive design for 1, with no agreements on how to get reimbursed for any of it. And so the reason we're here today is we've gotten to the point where we can't reasonably keep moving forward without some sort of agreement. We're going to work together in the future. And so what's likely to happen in my mind, Tamara, correct me if I'm wrong, but I see this eventually going through the Department of Economic Development to city council approval for a typical amount of work being documented by breaking up this scope of work into multiple development agreements. So there'll be a development agreement for a fire station that lays out the terms for the relocation, the swap, and reimbursement cost of the fire station. Sort of hurdles for achieving that. Same thing for the roadway reconstruction, same thing for the affordable housing, for the hotel. So it'll be a series of development agreements. And again, this is just the first phase. So we haven't even started talking about, sort of broader long-term plans for the district. So there'll still be a lot of work to be done over the next. We're just trying to get it going.
Yeah, I have another question. You have done a very good job explaining it.
Thank you.
I have a quick one. The developments, the future developments on the other side, on the other side of Griffin and Ross, are those offices? Let's
see where we're at. So the entrance that you have goes to in here on the other side of Griffin here. So these buildings over the course of the last 6 years have all been proposed and changed, generally based upon tenants in the market. So this building was proposed for a large financial services company that eventually signed a lease to take them to Park District or Parkside, next to 501 Park. So the name of it that is. This building was a conceptual design that was done for another large financial services company that we're hoping to keep in downtown in an existing asset. This building is proposed as a residential tower. This super block was proposed as a mixed-use office building with a residential tower and shared parking. The reason for this super block was there's a large sort of think House of Blues, but not House of Blues, event venue, entertainment space that was looking for a very large retail footprint that they thought would create. And we're also looking for kind of a terminus here for the neighborhood. So Sarah Wall Rogers, but it's looking at terminus. So that's the rationale of the design here. Obviously, we talked about this, and then you can see the massings of these as we sort of get further into the neighborhood. The level of detail goes down. Because practically speaking, we think it's probably going to kind of grow from the Goldman Sachs campus on the other side of the wall. We're trying to take that activity and drag it to mainstream to downtown.
Follow-up question would be, so the buildings is a level with the east of Ross. Any, yes?
This building right here?
And above.
I think right now these massings represent the larger footprint buildings represent office. So this is residential, this is residential, that's residential. We did actually have a residential plan for this site. And actually you can tell by whether or not there's a pool. So pool. I don't know about this one. Actually, this is there was a design for a larger building here, and then we moved the fire station over here. They just truncated the design, so we're seeing kind of a building conceptual design.
So, with the exception of the building just north of the fire station, that you do not control, a proposed fire station, talking about that building over there, you do not control it. With the exception of that, do you and your group control the buildings in white? The sites where we see buildings in white?
Every single one of them, except for
the YMCA.
The YMCA, which was a potential addition at one time.
Okay, sure.
Okay, one quick other question. Is all the parking for this side below grade?
Yes and no. So all of the new parking is below grade. The rental component, so Headington has that large freestanding garage across the street, and one of the things we're trying to figure out is leverage that and use it, and so, and also lower the cost of building the product. And so for the for rent product, in order to try to drive the construction costs down, we're exposing the parking for that to be across the street.
All right. Good questions. Now, this is the good part. It's finally we can start with one point. Know that our board here has comments and feedback for you. We want you to take these comments and feedback in the best possible light. Just like you said, you worked with it in front of the board years ago. You got some comments you wish you had listened to the board at the time. That's what we are here for. Engage and provide you with positive feedback so that when it gets built, and we hope it gets built, we have invested our collective best in this project. Okay. Starting that, who would like to volunteer with comments today? Mark.
I have questions, well, comments, I guess. Some that are related to the overall master plan and some related to phase one. My first comment on the overall master plan is there was a reference to super blocks. And I do understand what you guys are trying to do with the master plan, and that is an old master plan. I would love for your team to take into consideration of not creating super blocks. We heard a lot early on about pedestrian connectivity, walkability, complete streets. When we create super blocks within the city of Dallas, we do the exact opposite of that. So the more that you can create a connected grid system through your project, I think that would be really great for the city of Dallas. The second comment I have in relationship to the master plan is the pocket part or the sort of civic part that you have seems to be located on the outside of the district on our more intensive vehicular streets. It might be something to look at is how do you move that green space that's along Griffin and I forgot the name of the other street. And move that internal into your site that is clustered around buildings to feel much more like a very urban park that is vested by everybody.
Sorry, we got which pocket park are we?
So the one that looks like an L on the site.
I think he's talking about this right now. And I think that's
that one right there, yeah.
Yes, okay.
It feels like it wants to be in your district somewhere in here, and taking that building, making a strong architectural move along these streets when you come in, and then you have a safer space in the middle.
Yeah, I think good. I know you're not looking for a response.
No, you don't have to respond. That's just my comment.
Well, but I will. So it's sitting on property today, and this is our own property, and we're assuming that the city might keep some of their property, and whatever they kept would be a pocket park. One of the pieces of feedback we've got from other city departments is they don't want us to create green space that the city's obligated to maintain. So they would rather us take this, and so if we're modifying the plan to incorporate us taking it, we probably would shift the building so that it's more. So I think it's
I think as the city, as we all know in the city of Dallas, we have some great urban parks. However, we don't have the money to fund them for maintenance and long-term operations. So if you guys do create an internal park within the area that's with your property owner association that takes care of it, I think that'd be very advantageous to the city. My second one has to go with just love the relocation of it. I have no problem with that. But when you start to look at Griffin, and I think you guys started it, Griffin was built to accelerate traffic from highway to the convention center. When you look at downtown Dallas, there are very few streets that are 4 or 5 lanes. One is Ross. Ross is 300 feet away from you guys. So is there a scenario where you could say this segment of Griffin that you all are rebuilding does not need to be 4 lane? Maybe it doesn't even need it. could it be 2 lanes with parallel parking and this great urban design on the sidewalks where you guys can reclaim more land? I think if we're creating a TIA that's trying to prove that street, we've obviously made a misstep potentially. I would ask that the development team look at Griffin as a very walkable street, because somebody going to the convention can get off, they can go to Ross and they go down to the existing Griffin. Control your destiny within the development to make that a signature street and not an automobile designated street.
A note on Griffin, one of the things that we evaluated early on was the fact that eliminating that cross street entirely and back to the old Griffin alignment.
Yeah.
And one of the issues with that, one of the only out parcels here that we don't own, is, let's see if we can see it on this, on one of these maps. There's a little building right here that squeezes right up against Griffin. We don't own this section. This is all owned by the property owner who owns that building. And he is very adamant that it never gets torn down. So if that building wasn't there, then you might have a completely different plan.
Sure.
But
again, it does. Yeah. And then I would just say that lastly, point, there's street tree canopies, greatest thing that we have in downtown Dallas. Look at innovative strategies of soil health under your trees. Anything you can do to not compact the soil.
We did 4 rivers, right? Dallas Morgan and that has full. First one, city of Dallas, kind of treated soil.
Yeah, and you can just tell that health of the tree is so much better.
What?
You just tell the soil, the health of the tree is so much better.
So you can look at the next door, there's cedar elms that have been there for 50 years, 40 years. And these trees are growing twice the rate.
There's a great Instagram snippet, it's called Dallas 6 Street Trees, and it talks about it talks about all the negativity of what we do in downtown Dallas related to one of the greatest things that we have.
I wanted to talk to you about Griffin Street as it comes into town. Only really what they've done in the rural next door, getting a farmer's market, that's your standard suburban. We're not creating that. We're creating an LA tree canopy, even though it's immediate. And you're talking about better walkable streets on the edges. We've done both. So
yeah,
I just think that's good.
I'm not as worried as what you're trying to do behind it, but I think what you guys are doing behind it, what I'm worried about is what happens between the curbs. The 4 lanes of traffic still on Griffin seems like it's unneeded. I would rather say you have 1 lane in either direction with parallel parking. I know you show parallel parking in phase 1, but on the other side of Griffin, which I believe is the north side, you guys don't show parallel parking. I think that's very critical when you're talking about the street for activation of areas that are there. So just think about that.
We have that offer.
Sure. What? 3 lanes, yeah, expression?
Yeah.
Well, we would love to have your suggestion.
We like smaller.
And this is the civil engineer who said that.
Reforms.
Yeah, right. It's been a process.
Appreciate it.
That's all I got. Thank you guys. First of all, thank you guys very much for spending the amount of time and capital that you have over the years to think about this district. It's very exciting. This is one of the big holes in downtown Dallas, and hopefully in the next 10 to 20 years, it looks like this.
Thank you, Chris.
Well, I'd be happy to go.
Yes.
First of all, thank you for these plans. I mean, I think you're doing really great stuff here. And I've been to that area so often, Lord knows it needs a new vision, and we're on our way to that. That's great. I appreciate you helping me also with one of the arguments I had. And that's where and Mark touched on this, where our landscape friends couch these designs in terms of the pedestrian experience. What they're really trying to do is hide the architecture so that you can't see any of the buildings through these spaces. So I will use that as a clue that buildings actually can provide a lot of shade and interest and activity also. I have a new car and I did not put a bumper sticker on it that says trees are the answer. They are help, but they're not the answer. And I'd love to see better architectural engagement in some of the street front things and some of the, some of the opportunities for that interaction there. Because there's, we have talented architects. They do great work and all that stuff. Yeah, so that's just my architect rant. Sorry. Other thing would be, Martin and I had not occurred to me at all, so I didn't get into the question. Do we actually need Griffin north of Ross Avenue, period? What if we just took that out and let the people come down? They've already got a high-speed off ramp. Told them got it fast. So, all right, they're going to have, without that, we can still do a traffic controlled intersection in front of Pacific Plaza, who, by the way, owe you a great deal since they're not tabling that this plan really benefits their property. But let them come all the way down to Ross and cut over to go down if they want to, and reclaim all of that stuff back in there somehow. Seemed like an opportunity to me. Then my last comment would be just a little bit of follow-up on the fire station thing, because I do think we are operating off of a mid-20th century notion about fire stations. I know for a fact, what the idea that they make noise and stuff, no one will be around, but you can't avoid it. There's an emergency vehicle going all the time in downtown Dallas. But they also provide all over the city a really important public benefit. People wander into those places all the time. They're hurt, they're lost, they're curious, whatever it is. I know that there's a constant stream of the community into and out of fire station. They have events there, they do toy drives and things. So putting that garage in place really isn't, it's just not, I think it's not taking advantage of the real benefit. We're trying to build a community that has a real benefit for a community that's not a place to find it, it's a place to use it. Put it someplace, incorporate it somehow into the overall district, because it brings benefits. DFRs, that's not them. They don't look fun this way. Their idea. So our job as urban planners should be to maximize the benefit that one of those facilities bring. And that's it for me.
Any comments? Any questions? Any questions back to Norm? Welcome.
Yeah. My turn? Yeah. This is really exciting. I've had a lot of experience in this district. I worked in West End for about 10 years. So I know all the challenges walking, trying to go to lunch at El Phoenix, walking through the Perot Museum, just all the things that makes it pretty difficult to be a pedestrian or a cyclist through here. And I mentioned that that's my route to work pretty much every day, rain or shine. I have to say this, when I'm looking at it, I fear this becoming something like a Post Oak Boulevard in the Galleria District in Houston. My experience being a pedestrian and a cyclist there, our office is across Katy Freeway. Is it Katy Freeway, Mark? Whatever that freeway is. But
610, yes.
That experience walking along Post Oak, doesn't matter what the weather is, it's terrible. It doesn't feel like you're in downtown. The open spaces connected to the buildings aren't usable. This has, with the pocket parks and everything else, it's just a tremendous opportunity to create that connection. And y'all know, create that connection to Perot Museum, everything else. So I'm just going to encourage just connecting the dots with all those things. You mentioned bringing them in and kicking and screaming into downtown. I think that needs to happen. But make it look like a downtown, make it function like a downtown. And to do that, you're going to probably need a little more space and a little more flexibility. I love trees. I think everyone here loves trees. I'm going to say get rid of the median. Get rid of the 15-foot median and use that space to look into really making it a complete street, getting a really good bike lane in there, a protected bike lane if you can. Make this a destination. Make this somewhere where I want to go from my office, walking or biking, grab lunch, and come back somewhere I can stop on my way home, grab a coffee, grab a beer. That'd be one. So I guess I'm going to say get rid of trees. Trees. But I think, 14, 15 feet there, and you start looking at what you can do on the left and right side of the rider space, you can create such a much more appealing space for pedestrians and people on bikes. But thank you for your presentation. I'm excited to see what happens.
Thank you, Michael.
I want to confirm on which street are you saying to eliminate the median?
Both.
Oh, okay.
All three. Ross.
All of
Yeah.
Ross, they are not only.
There's that little strip right there.
All right. It actually may be inconsistent because it's been on and off.
Okay.
It's actually.
Someone does.
Yeah.
Good, fine, with that. Good. Second?
Yes, okay. Well, I do have actually quite a bit of feedback on this one. I am also a civil engineer and traffic engineer. That perspective, I try to organize my thoughts with you in terms of no particular importance. So first one is I have to work on the D2 alignment for the art with a consultant. And one of the reasons actually got shelved is because when they were doing, they had to do the subsurface utility exploration and get geotech data. So when they just do, they call data test just to get the geotech data done, they couldn't find enough clear space without franchise just to do the borings. So that tells you how many utilities are in that corridor. So keep that in mind as you look at that. But that's my personal experience. It was difficult just to get geotech data done. However, as part of that, I also have the exact same thought that why are we maintaining Griffin? I understand that it was there today. However, I feel like that potentially too, we do want to plan around it if it does happen. 15 years from now, who knows? Because it's a very important connection for God. Because right now there is only one connection. So they understand why it's needed. So on the south side of your development, where you have the green space, you are already offsetting your buildings to accommodate a future potential. My thought was that this portion of Griffin becomes like a 90-degree L, but with a very reduced section, kind of similar to what. But I was thinking that you have to maintain Griffin, but with a very reduced section in the portion which is just west of Tree. So talking about instead of that curve, it becomes a 90-degree section. Yeah,
comes down. Tell me when to do that.
Yeah, come straight and then go up north.
And then right there.
Right there. Because you're doing a lot of land swaps already. This is just a thought to suggest you are hearing people saying eliminate it, reduce the median to 2. I don't think traffic department would like to eliminate it altogether because it does serve some purpose. One of the options that we discussed with city is to consider a much reduced pedestrian scale section. It does provide. What it's going to do is if and when the RT2 does happen, you are already programming your section with and around.
Yeah, if it does. I think so. If the city or DART own this property.
No, I totally understand. This is just suggestion for long term. You don't have to respond. I'm just giving just comments. Second comment, which is also something to think about, is and Philly has done a great job. I work with them, they do great work. Please confirm your queue distance from the off-ramp. Based on, I just did a quick scale, and from the board to the new signal, we have about 250 feet plus or minus. I just kind of did a scale on the right track. However, I use reach traffic. The stopping side distance is component of reaction distance plus braking distance, right? So just the reaction distance that I count, just reaction, not braking, is more than 200 feet. So if you have only 250 feet and you need 200 just for reaction time or more, I see there's a challenge, we just need to look at it again. Please confirm that part. And it may mean adding more signage, more signal, but if I'm a tax law reviewer, I may pick up on it and I may question the location of that stop. There's a reason why existing different went all the way without any signals, because you needed a lot more stopping signals. Okay. Okay, then on one of the questions you have heard a lot is typical sections. And the reason we were questioning is because we know that in that section with you're showing only 2 lanes with a median. If you look at the plan, you will see right turn lane or left turn median. On a job like that, my suggestion always is that as we discuss it, typical sections are great, but just it's small enough. Just show us a blow up plan layout with dimensions. Everybody can just look at the section right away. Because I can see that, for example, at the intersection, there are 2 lanes going straight, 1 lane turning 4 straight or different. That's where the questions come in. Why do we have 2 versus 3? So a plan view that prioritizes the dimension control helps everybody along. Another comment, which is a total reference on Field Street, where we have a drop off. You know, we are showing it's that big blow up. One of the things is that these, I don't know if traffic departments commented on it or not, but at least that drop off right there is an extra wide. You know, that is way too wide. I don't know if traffic department do lanes. Yeah, there are 2 lanes. On that, was my concern is that if you have already studied it, and I would love to take a look at the TIA and give the feedback or see anything. When you are forcing everybody to come in and then go out, that drop off exit when people are leaving it just before a signal. Now imagine if the signal is blocked and you have cars in there as well. So that peak hour has been studied. An alternate, I know you don't want to do it, but an alternate would be if somehow you can maneuver it through and let the exit happen on Ross with the free light, instead of having the exit happen on field before the signal. But don't let that, you know, dictate the whole design. I love it. It is beautiful. But this must be, you want to look at it, you want to create something that could create problems pretty down the road. I love the dock design. It is very well thought out. Very few people actually think about it and make sure that the truck can get in and out safely. It's very well thought out. Another thing that I would like to mention in the big scheme of things, this is not significant development that, you know, on all these developments, like I asked you, have you looked at where the on-core power pads are? And then easements been defined. On-core pads, you're going to more than likely need either a 3-phase service for the whole development. Those are big 25 by 25 easements. And you may have more than one. My only suggestion is please plan it now. Because if not, then, you know, later on it becomes a challenge. And also on B2, it was a challenge to work with Encore to try to figure out if they have enough juice to. Now that was for B2. I'm not saying that's the case for the development, but I'm just saying reach out early, you can identify that need and figure that part out. And then my last suggestion was that you have taken significant financial investment in it, so thank you for that. And I'm sure you have lots of money to spend. I would feel a lot comfortable if I have something in writing as well, even if they are pocket development agreements, but those are done early. So that, for example, you know, you have other suggestions, but like on the right-of-way swaps, that's where, you know, if you don't have anything in writing, that's a lot of risk to look at it. So I would suggest to prioritize that and get that fast track. But good, I love it. It's great. Great development. That's
all right. Any comments? Any feedback?
Yeah, I have a question.
Why so from the team? No, all good. All right. Yes, Maria.
A lot of the comments that I have already been mentioned. I do want to say again that this is an incredible vision, and it's one of those really shape. Take that as different direction. So appreciate the investment and the fact that you have a fantastic design team to support that. Along the house, it feels like that side of the development is a lot less active. Eddie was talking about activating the streets, and I got that is happening really well on Draper and Field. This side feels a little bit more like the back side, and I understand that there's always a back side. We have a garage. So I don't know what the solution is, but just think about it. Is there anything else that can be done to activate that side? And then the other thing is, if you're going to have some of your tenants parking in the garage across the street, how are we managing the crossing of the street? Are they going to have to go all the way to the corner on Field, which we know is ideal from a safety standpoint, but it's likely not going to happen? They're going to be trying to cross over mid-block. So how do you manage that and make sure that it's safe and a nice part of the tenants' access to their street?
I'll just say that in terms of parking, we do find that there are a fairly large number of downtown residents down at parks. So I think you asked about how many will be should be subsidized over that conversion time. And I think we'd be parking this across the street is really about timelines and trying to get the garage to fit to a specific depth of footprint. I think it's roughly 40 spaces that are going to be accommodated across the street. And the majority of those would also be some of that's market rate. Most of that is affordable housing. So I think a world class brand new for $1,500 a month. And getting us to across the street, that's probably save an extra $100,000 from the cost to go a third story, because that marginal space is the cost of that third story space. So we are expecting to go either into the Griffin Field intersections to cross, and most likely, since that's going to be the one that kind of gets you closest to what feels like how most people have done.
And then the other one thing I wanted to mention is, I'm sure, again, you have a fantastic design team, I'm sure there's several conversations about that, but keep in mind, just saying that you guys are finalizing or getting to the design, you know, permanent, there's a lot of heating on the drop-off area. I know that there's a, going to the garage, there's a configuration there about sustainability further there, adding a lot of trees and great landscape.
Good. All right. So guys, you got a lot of good feedback, okay, excellent feedback. With so many of our volunteers having this kind of feedback, I don't have much to add. But what I'd like to do is to reinforce a couple of things that you already heard. And also, I have some comments from Kate Aoki, who had to be early. She had let us know in advance that she had to be early, so she left some of her comments, which I'm going to wrap up in my own comments. So first of all, when Arturo distributed the package in advance, as he always does, I had a chance to look at it. I spent several minutes reading, understanding, flipping through the documents that you presented. And from a macro scale, this is textbook, a great approach. You know, this is what should be happening everywhere, elsewhere, whenever there were these interventions, these ill-fated interventions directed by the highway department from the 60s, 70s, and even 80s. So this is one of those case studies, how to correct stuff that was done at the time with best intentions, but now in hindsight, we know that, well, not so good. So great that you are tackling that. Wonderful. Regarding the design of the block, the hotel, the housing, the residential, and the workforce housing. Excellent. You already heard about clever position of the loading dock. Well, that's just one of the aspects. Everything else, it seems to work. It is grand where it needs to be grand. It is modest where it has to be modest. I'm referring to the south side. I'm referring to the northwest corner. It understands and respects and reacts to and enhances every side of that that it touches. So great. We understand this is still at a concept level. We can see how it's going to continue to evolve in a good way. Having said all that, though, I still think that there's a certain level of still tentative. You know, all the good intentions are there, but what if we push it all the way to the finish line? And by that I mean, again, incorporating Kate's comments and some that you already heard. There's still a hint of and that's the S word, hint of suburban character. And by that I mean, buildings are still far from the curb or far from the back of the edge of the sidewalk. Yes, trees are good. Boy, we love trees, but we have to calibrate, right? When is it too much? Norm's point. When are trees sort of more than stitching? When do trees start to block or to create a distance between the sidewalk and the view? So that's where I think, you know, I'm looking at this image over here, that zone over there, and there are others. Well, that one is pretty good, but there are other renderings that we saw. You know, maybe, you know, bring it closer. It's okay. You know, let's not be afraid of inching closer. If the idea is to make the demonstration project, I think you, Billy, said we are starting from the west, following the Goldman Sachs lead, and we're moving east, and hopefully the city will take the hint. Well, if that's the idea, well, let's make it full-blown demonstration project. And by that is, well, get closer to the edges. I love the idea. One of us here, not taking any credit, but one of us suggested, and Kate also suggested in her comments, stating that, I know this is not part of what we are reviewing today, don't get me wrong, but it goes along with the comment of bringing buildings closer to the edge. What if that building gets closer to the edge, the northern edge? Billy, I know that's not land that you control, belongs to the city, but you have a precedent right here on the site with land swap. You are swapping land with the fire station. So we support, the panel will support, if that's an approach that you'd like to take, the panel will support, and we'll take it, we'll have it on record, and Arturo is taking notes. No, we cannot legislate anything, but we can support, and the council and the planning department take that into account. If we do that, if we push it up, and up north, and maybe east, you know, take the precedent that we have here. You call it workforce housing. I don't know if it's going to be really workforce. Those look really nice. I'd like to live there myself. Maybe we can take that precedent and line up Griffin Street over here. Bring again an edge. Bring a building edge closer to the street. What we are doing is we are pushing development north and east, north and northeast. In doing so, how about the pocket park idea that was floated here, right in the center of the whole area? So push it up, push it east, create a pocket park truly internal, not on the edges, because this is hard to occupy. But if it's here, now you have the quote-unquote House of Blues, you have a new development here, mixed use, you have a residential development here, all flanking a potential pocket park that is lined on 3, hopefully 4 sides with development, with buildings, with edges, of a size that is comfortable, that is compatible, consistent with other pocket parks, with other parks in downtown. Also love the idea that, again, one of my colleagues suggested, what if bring Griffin straight down? If we do that, I know that you want to create make this agnostic, as you said, I love the term. Regardless of what happens, this is still feasible. But you know, if we take the median away, if we squeeze a bit the sidewalks, maybe this edge here, the edge of the western edge of the development can inch west, right? And make that edge agnostic, again, to use your term. Either if this goes down straight and hooks up here, or if this remains a narrower version of Griffin, it still works. So do consider that, because looking into the future, B2 and the realigned Griffin, that yes, it still acknowledges Fountain Place, thank you. Fountain Place, still acknowledges Fountain Place. Think about that, B2 connecting to Fountain Place, and that connection, along midpoint on that connection, there will be a pocket car. I think there's a lot of potential there. No, don't jeopardize what you're doing here, great, but think about that, consider that. You probably have sketched that option. Please go back, revisit it, okay? And finally, the fire station. Yes, everybody is gravitating here towards the fire station. Kate made a point, you heard, but it would make, I think, a lot of sense to bring it back, if at all possible, to that spot. Let's be frank here. That triangle is not going to.
Yes.
Not much can happen there. You can't have another residential tower. You can't have much there.
It also has a 30% affordability.
If you realign
That's right. If you realign this, then all of a sudden you have a site that is pretty good for a fire station.
One of the challenges with the fire station site that has a 30% affordability.
And not only
30% affordability.
Not only that, if you bring it back here, you still preserve the potential for this whole site. Yes, you don't control that, but who knows? In the future, there's a chance that all of this could become one parcel, and if the fire station there, that there's no future. But if the fire station stays here somewhere, somehow, there's still potential for that parcel to be combined, for those parcels to be combined. So guys, again, nothing here, just reiterating comments that you heard before, sharing some of Kate's comments which go along with what you heard. Thank you for looking at this part of the city. Thank you for taking a enlightened approach. If we had similar approaches elsewhere in the city, we would be even better.
Can I make one last comment, maybe just an observation? Can I see, someone hold up the floor plan? Not that the house. This is a small thing, and maybe I'm hypersensitive to it. But if you're presenting this, I would almost, where it says workforce housing, I would just put residential or something. Because this would be the first thing I thought of. Oh, look, they're putting the lower rent units on the other side of the dumpster. And this to me I know you're talking about a beautiful development and all, but you look at that, it's like, let's put those folks on the other side of the dock. And that may not be, and I'm sure that's not your intention, but in this city, in this time, I can see that being perceived inappropriately that way, or being perceived that way. So it may be as simple as just what you label it. It's residential for the residential area, but you may specify what residential does. You're pushing the envelope.
You made a comment. Certain percentage of the residential units to be low income, so affordable housing. Please clarify, and where would that go? Would it go there?
So the TIF has a requirement for new vertical construction that receives city support and sort of incentives has to have 20% affordable housing and 80% ANI. This TIF district also has an additional requirement for any project that utilizes city-owned land, which that fire station obviously counts. It has to have 30% affordability. So
what we see here is a combination of privately owned land for the most part, but then some city-owned land as it extends into the existing fire station site. So we have a blend.
It's not that you have it, it's how you present it. My comment is strictly on how it's presented.
I think you're 100% right. We're going to make that change. So that's, but just in terms of clarifying, so the residential component to the hotel is intended to be a branded residential component that's for sale. So we're talking $2 million condos. Yeah. How you allocate 20% of the $2 million condos to be workforce housing available at 80% of AMI is a challenge. So, and frankly, originally this was planned to stand alone and not receive any public support. But there was effectively a determination that the public improvements had to be tied to our first phase of private improvements. Because this is our first phase of private improvements, now all of a sudden we have this affordable requirement. And so this was designed without the workforce housing at first. And then when we had the affordable requirement added to it, we sort of went to the drawing board and sketched up a bunch of different ideas about how to incorporate it, whether it's just a defined, like, hey, we'll build some residential units that are for, but basically the solution we came up with was, well, we'll add a for rent product. And the majority of that for rent product will have to be dedicated to affordable housing, not all of it. But at the same time, that product is going to be it's not going to be branded product, but it's going to be part of the same building. It's going to be associated with the project, so it has to be under the same standard. So that's how we sort of ended up with what will probably end up being the nicest workforce housing.
And at the time, because we weren't really controlling the outcome of the fire station, that was literally almost a back face. So it was kind of alley condition facing development, fire station plan south, and our development plan. We thought the liner condition would actually disguise and actually create a front face. You know, so,
right.
So I think
it's clear.
if we can work the deal where the fire station is integrated, not just one.
If you can realize that it's going to be a smaller, more of a connected grid, which gives you not a triangle at the bottom, but more of a rectangle, does that help you at all also? So that's, I think, looking at that overall transportation street grid pattern, I know you guys have come a long way, and it's hard to always back up. It might be something that might be advantageous to you related to that.
So your port zoning is a single loaded corridor,
right?
So there's no residents looking towards the everything's looking south.
Again, you're picking on the design and the rationale for doing it. I got no problem with the design. I have concern for you for the way you have labeled it, because if you were to give us a plan, it was one level above, probably none of it would be an issue. It would all be integrated, but fine, and you've got them running it. But that by itself, if people see that by itself, that's an argument I see it could be, and an assumption that could be made that you don't want.
So
that's all.
It's semantics, that's all.
Yeah, don't prevent it. Don't prevent it. I think it's great. I just open the perception.
And the way it works as a liner, as you said, yes, we can see brilliant, great. Okay. Anything else from the panel? No. Anything?
I'm going to pick you guys apart. Sorry.
I would just say that obviously this project has more public realm than most projects, and so we've all sort of acknowledged there's going to be a lot of different voices, a lot more steps of review and modification after this. And so in terms of recording your feedback, my experience has been of all the sort of stakeholders who've provided input in the past, the urban design peer review panel got it right more than the rest. And so to the extent that we can not only amplify your comments about what should be changed, but also about what is right. If there are things you see in the plan that nobody has said anything about because you all liked it, it would be nice to have that on record that these are things that you like, that you would like
to make sure that nobody else comes in and changes. I think that would be a really helpful sort of part of that. More important in this case than
But that's gonna be a little bit of a tweak to the way we're documenting our comments. And
We'll have an opportunity to review them.
yes, I would suggest we do that, Mr. Chairman, of the meeting, that we consider adding some comments to the draft. So, because he's gonna need a fire extinguisher for that. And gonna overheat and burn in flames, so that might be better. So, yeah.
Just a minute, what if you circulate the draft? That's nice, if I circulate the draft with this group, and we can add,
add their favorite parts of that. We could use that.
okay? Because typically that's not what we do. But we understand, and it's a board point.
Thank you so much.
Anything else before you leave? Anything from?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like to say, I would greatly appreciate your ability to see beyond what's on these drawings and boards. A lot of the things that you have come back with, we actually talked about for a very long time. Things like taking away the median and actually giving back and like, I mean, those are really, I think, powerful moves that really contribute to the community, right? Making it feel more connected. So I just want to say I really appreciate your vision. And I just thought today was some feedback.
Likewise. Thank you.
It was fun for us.
Just say one thing. Yes, that is correct. And that is why I was requesting the guys come up with a plan. Because for example, median on Field Street, okay, then yes, you can take it away, but the moment you talk about taking it away, you still have to maintain a left turn into the adjacent development. That's what the purpose is served. So we can't just blanketly say take it away and we are all saying.
No, that's just an example.
Yeah,
like this, when we realign, this is a challenge, right? Because if you can create clarity, I mean, we talked about bringing this all the way through and connecting the picture, right?
Yeah, and but by the way, that is true. Yeah, it's always true. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So what if you want to go to the utopian, just bring the proof straight and not do internal.
I made the mistake of publicly suggesting that Griffin should connect all the way into Vineyard Park, and there's a certain public establishment there that really didn't like that.
And only based on a D2 experience, I remember there was some on-pole main transmission running down Griffin, and it was a huge challenge relocating and stuff. So, but at that time, we were looking at Griffin kind of, not the Gulf portion, but even like a slight realignment of it. I know you are running to it, but please don't get scared. I'm getting we all are saying the same thing. Look at realigning that portion.
Yeah, we actually have a thing that's not drawn what it takes it up McKinney and over to.
Oh, okay.
We have this actually started with utilities in the street. So more than half of the money that's going to be spent on public improvements is going to be spent on that kind of stuff. Yeah, but it's not fun to talk about it. It's they've spent a few years working on it. They've already started applying for some grants.
Some franchise groups don't even know they have these stuff.
Yeah,
we'll find a line and it takes 17 calls to figure out who owns it.
Well, and there's stuff where the streets used to be. That is we own part of a few of the streets, and then the city owns like parts of like parking spaces in our parking lot. It's a mess, so it just all needs to be. You guys are up for 10, 15 minutes to work with me, Steve.
Do we want to? We're going to have a special review round.
Okay, what if we just let it talk? So what if you type out the draft and then you circulate and it's ineffective?
Sounds good. And we typically do that, but not to this extent. So you guys will get extra extra recommendations or assistance from panel, so I think that would be good.
Yeah.
Yes, so we typically provide changes, not document pieces that we like the best, and I can understand that.
Yeah.
The usefulness of that for us to do that.
I'll get those out to you guys, if not by the end of today.
That's okay.
Because we typically circulate those internally as well before we send them out.
Okay. All right.
Thank you all.
The meeting is adjourned, and please come back. Thank you.
Thank you.